I would like to just address something here. You know, I mean, we're talking about, well, what is the harm? You know, the EU is still around. You can still like buy things and et cetera and so on. Officially severing the EU, making it a point, making it a proclamation, is something of a symbolic and moral attack against George Lucas's Star Wars. Now, what difference does that make, you may say? I mean, what difference does it make if, say, the general public doesn't know a lot about these things and doesn't care? Well, I would basically say that it is a symbolic disavowing of the fandom that came before. For example, why does anybody care if someone burns an American flag? Well, the American flag is a symbol, but of course, America is not damaged by the burning of an American flag. It doesn't impact our territory. It doesn't impact our laws. It doesn't impact individual citizens, except the ones that perhaps are upset by it. But it is a moral attack against the United States, attacking the symbols of an establishment or a franchise in this case, is an attack on that franchise, and particularly demoralizing to the fans. Disney Star Wars has been one big assault on the fandom, on the very notion of fans that have extended for, since 1977. And one of the key aims of these kind of cultural vandals, of the woke movement, is to devalue, debase, revise, and replace the targeted lore, the targeted culture, in this case, Star Wars. I would say that this is a larger and more pernicious issue at heart beyond the scope of this trial. But I would say that simply saying, well, is the EU popular? Do most people know about it? Is not really at issue here. It's not certainly a defense to the charge. It is a larger issue of disrespect to the fandom. And as I always say, without respect, we reject.
Yeah, I am a simple person, okay? When I see what we're doing here, all right? When I see what we're doing here, we're talking about how Disney killed Star Wars. I'm all good on the charges, right? Like breaking the fourth wall here. Yep, we're cool. I don't like Disney. But we get down to this, and I don't understand why you'd say them leaving the EU alone for a majority of it. I don't understand how that's a problem, because what they did with Luke Skywalker was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. We know that Disney cannot keep their crap together to make a good story to save their life. So why is it a bad thing that they left some of our favorite characters alone? Anna, you had that figure that was of the
They're
Solo.
not. Right? They're not leaving them alone. They just haven't gotten to them yet.
Anna, who was that person that you just lifted up, that little action figure? Who was it?
Which one?
The little action figure, the daughter of the Solos.
Jaina?
I don't think he likes you.
What'd they do to that? They left her alone.
No. They didn't leave her alone. They completely erased her, and they replaced her with Kylo Ren.
They put her in the off canon, okay? The off canon. Hey,
They insulted her, and then they claimed there's no female characters. There's no strong female characters.
I just want to go on record of saying one thing. I was relieved when Disney took over Star Wars, and I know people find that bad. But the fact is, I went from that generation that went through the prequels, and we all went in there, and you can see the trial, you can watch the movie, you can hear the song that some of the fans made about George Lucas doing something to Star Wars, or to their childhood. I was relieved, and there has been good stuff that's come out of Disney, and I'm happy when they do good stuff, and a lot of times they do bad stuff, but the fact is, like I've been saying, it's not disrespectful to the fans because they're just doing, as previously pointed out, what George Lucas did.
That's not at all what George Lucas did. Kathleen Kennedy said none of this existed. George Lucas, I showed the photo in my presentation. George Lucas used the expanded universe and had it there to
and
reference.
He also overwrote that expanded universe when it suited him.
What?
He overwrote it.
Well, George Lucas created Star Wars. He's allowed to change things.
Now Disney owns Star Wars, and they're allowed to change.
Disney didn't create Star Wars. They're changing someone else's creation.
That's what happens every time you make a work.
And that's why we're in this trial.
And you think that's a good thing, that they can go ahead, the highest bidder can go ahead and buy whatever they
That's
want
capitalism.
and trash it and destroy it.
You watch your language.
How capitalism
We're
works.
allowed to
You'll be
call it-
malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. And don't let me catch you following me, begging for help, because you won't get it.
Gloria,
So one of the points I wanted to make that I had written down for you, Sam, was the claim is not about the Disney's ability to adapt things correctly. It's about whether or not and how they treated the EU and they disrespected it. Kathleen Kennedy saying it didn't exist. We're not arguing on if they would have done a good job with it. That is not what was on trial.
okay, what you're saying right now is, hey, go ahead and go 55 miles an hour in a school
That's
zone.
not what I
does
said.
it lead
Don't put
to?
words in my mouth.
What does it lead to?
That is not what I said. Don't
You
put
got
words.
it backwards, you filthy furball. Only an overgrown mophead like you would be stupid enough.
I do not understand how you can look at this and say, yes, Disney messed up the EU because they left it out. Okay, they cherry
I
picked.
didn't say that.
Talk about that, but that is the count. That is the count. I read the count. I stated the count. They disrespected the fans by decanonizing it. By decanonizing it, they took it out. They were not going to adapt it. So how?
But they are adapting it.
Don't you call me a mindless philosopher, you overweight glob of grease?
I might actually blow up C-3PO.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No offense. No,
Does anyone have any
Kathleen Kennedy using as an excuse as to why we have Star Wars fatigue by saying that they don't have any source material like Marvel, that is a huge disrespect. And then not paying the people that created it. Bastardizing Luke Skywalker, that was an FU. Everything that Disney has done since they got Star Wars is a fuck you, and a hard fuck you with sandpaper and everything. So
Agreed.
with the EU, I'm not arguing on if they would have done a good job. That is not what the argument was. The argument on how they're disrespecting it, and I have given point after point on how they've disrespected it.
No,
It's
that
not
is-
my opinion.
Oh,
No,
dear
that is the
Anna,
argument.
if I told you half the things I've
That
heard
is-
about this
that is
Kathleen Kennedy,
100%
you'd
the
probably
argument.
short-circuit.
I disagree. There are parts of the new Star Wars that I really like, and they are not.
I like that they end.
What's that?
I like that they end, that they're finite in time and there are end credits, and then I feel an overwhelming sense of relief. That's the only thing I like about Disney Star
I have
Wars.
Guys, our feelings aren't on trial.
Well,
No.
yes, they are. That is the point.
No, they're not.
Charge is that we, the fans, are disrespected, and some of us aren't. Right? This entire debate is an emotional thing. This is a bunch of mostly Star Wars nerds arguing over whether or not we feel disrespected by Disney, and some of us aren't. And I'm
Well, I'm glad you embrace Disney Star Wars, sir. That's a wonderful thing. I certainly can't. I know the
people
difference
who
between shit and
cried
shinola,
at the
and I do not
end
embrace it. I renounce it. I renounce the devil and all of his works.
I know people cried at
Like
the end
Michael
of Kenobi.
Corleone.
There's no judging people or telling what people did.
Oh, I judge the hell out of people. That's a damn lie. I do not understand how we can go from the count is Disney disrespected Star Wars fans by decanonizing it, and then saying that if they did decide to canonize it, that them butchering it has nothing to do with it.
No, the argument is not.
at all.
Let me rephrase it. We're not debating on our opinion on how Disney's ability to adapt the EU would have gone. That's not what is the charge. Okay, so maybe I misspoke.
Disrespect.
It's disrespect. It's not
I am
what we
arguing-
thought their ability would have been. That's hearsay.
Okay? I'm arguing that this is the most respectful choice in hindsight. Disney is a freaking murderer. They murdered Star Wars. Why do we want them to murder more? I physically cannot
I
understand
said
that.
I wanted them to murder more. Neither did
That is
you.
what the charge is. That is what the charge is. Because
No, the
opposite of
charges
the charge
are us
is
trying to
saying that
prove
they
that
wanted to
they
keep it canon.
disrespected the EU and offended the fan base, right? Can we bring
By
the
keeping it
charges up
canon.
again and we can go at sentence by sentence?
It's blatant abuse, and abuse has been proven. Black Kursantan alone is proof. Boba Fett is proof. I mean, I absolutely have great sympathy for the defense. I would certainly not have assumed that role, and I applaud you gentlemen for having an essentially impossible task. In my view, we'll see how the jury reacts, but I would never defend anything that Disney has done with Star Wars. So But I'm not hearing any proof that contradicts the resolution, the blatant misuse of the EU. Obviously, the EU has been misused, and I would offer execute it, in my opinion.
I would say that it's not misused because this is the best outcome for it. That's why I'm so disconnected here, because this is the best outcome. Because if you look at any other outcome with Disney getting their grubby little fingers on it, they would have mutilated it.
They are mutilating it, according to
by your logic, sir. You're saying that if Billy the Kid shoots a guy in the kneecap and leaves him in the dust, that's a lucky day for him because Billy the Kid could have put one in the head. And I would say that both are crimes, sir. Both are crimes.
Oh, so you think leaving someone with a busted up knee is just as bad as killing someone?
I would say they're both crimes.
They're both
severity,
crimes.
but they are both crimes. Therefore, you're just acknowledging that analogy. You're acknowledging that indeed Disney has abused the EU. You haven't abused it as badly, sir. So you lose, sir. Good day to you.
Let me interject, and I think I can find common ground here. So when you brought up Marvel and the shows and how they're not even respecting it, and I explained it's because they don't want to pay the creators, like She-Hulk, they didn't want to pay John Byrne for Sensational She-Hulk. Now, if they would have just said, screw it, this guy wrote something great, let's adapt it, and let's make She-Hulk based on the actual She-Hulk comics, they're going to be very silly, and it might be a little weird to see them on the big screen, or in our case, our living room screen, but it would have had a better basis, right? They would have maybe changed it because of, we all know who was doing She-Hulk. But with Star Wars, as compared to having just random characters that they pull out of their ass like Rose Tico, there would have at least been someone that at least had a decent backstory that we could have read up on. Now, this is me doing all hypotheticals. I'm not defending Disney, and I'm not, it's just, we don't know, so that's why we're not arguing. I get what you're saying, where you just like that they were left alone. And I like that a lot of it they don't know about, but it's only a matter of time before they do. Like when they butchered Talon Card and they put a knockoff character of him in the Andor show. And then when you go to his, what is it, Lucan, is that his name? And then you're in his shop and he has like Star Killers stuff in there. And it's like, oh, so now you guys care? And they're butchering it because it doesn't make sense that things from other eras would be there. I think they even had something from Revan in his shop. It doesn't make sense, and they've already started to butcher it. So we'll maybe in a year or two, we can have this debate again on how they've adapted it, because they're starting to find out, because they are actually that desperate now.